What does life look like after being diagnosed with Meniere's disease, vestibular migraines, neuritis, BPPV, MDDS, or any other balance disorder? How do you accept the new normal and learn to live and manage all the symptoms associated with these disorders? This podcast will introduce you to vestibular warriors who share their healing journey, obstacles they have overcome, and ones they continue to struggle with. Pretty much anything and everything these disorders shake up in our lives. We will share stories that are honest and vulnerable. We laugh, we cry, but mostly we learn from and lean on each other, so no one feels alone. Come be inspired and lean on a community that will empower you. You don't have to navigate these turbulent waters alone. My special guest today is Lisa. We had such a lovely conversation, despite some internet issues on my side, but it didn't stop us from going off topic many times. Before we jump right in, let me share a little bit about Lisa. Her first symptoms began in 2004 and then disappeared for 10 years. Then she experienced another episode, and then later diagnosed in 2020 when her symptoms returned with Meniere's disease. She longed for information and connection from people living with Meniere's. Over time, she began to understand that we can manage most of our symptoms, and more importantly, our outlook, while we learn to care for our physical body. She believes we can learn to live more positively with gratitude, humor, and compassion. Today, Lisa sells on-air advertising for 4 radio stations and digital advertising in real life. She has a theater background and a BA in art. She just became a grandmother last week for the very first time. This is so exciting, Lisa. Lisa's a VeDA ambassador and will be on the patient panel for VeDA's 3rd Virtual Vestibular Conference on March 6th through the 10th. Please welcome Lisa. Well, welcome, Lisa. I'm so happy we finally connected.
Yes, me too. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I think we first talked like last summer, so.
Yes, it was last summer. I think after you met with Steve and them, right?
Yeah, not too long after that. Yeah, because that was kind of in the spring break time.
Yeah, I was so bummed out I missed that. That looked like it was a lot of fun. So if you wouldn't take a second and share a little bit about yourself and your vestibular journey.
Okay, well, I live in Indiana. I'm originally from Iowa, moved around the country a lot and landed here. My first vestibular symptoms showed up in 2004. I woke up at night and was really, really dizzy. I woke up my husband at the time and said, something is really, really wrong. And so long story short, we stumbled down the hall and I was sick and the whole thing and, what in the world's happening? And at that time, it was thought to be an allergic reaction to Bing cherries. So I swore off Bing cherries and that was it. And then I know, right? And then in 2019, it happened again. So 15 years later, I had another vertigo attack and I thought, whoa, wow, haven't had one of these for a long time. How about that? Weird. I haven't had any cherries. So
it's obviously not the cherries.
and then they made a year and I was like, oh, this weird thing happens to me, da, da, da. And, so I had another one in 2020. And of course we were all, locked down and all that. So I was out walking and running a lot and doing all the things. And I had some other like little dizzy kind of weird things happen. And I remember but not, vertigo. And I remember telling my sister, I think I have Meniere's disease. She's like, oh, for heaven's sake, stay off Google,
Did you know someone with Meniere's disease?
So no.
You're just Googling it.
Even know how I even knew to look that up. I don't even know. And so, Dr. Google, you just kind of go down the rabbit hole. And realize you have everything. But so then I was out running and my right earbud fell out. And I realized I couldn't hear anything. And I was like, dang it, I'm going to have to get new earbuds. And then for some reason, I just did this, went over to the other side, and I could hear it just fine. I was like, okay. So
Wow.
I ignored that too. And then I had a friend that was visiting from out of town. I was really excited to see her, was on my way downtown to see her. And I had a vertigo attack in the car on the way down there. And I turned around and drove home and I was crying and everything. I'm like, I can't come. And boy, I no sooner hit the door and I was sick. And, you know, it lasted a good 3 or 4 hours, as you know. And so I finally decided to go to the doctor. And at that time, you know, I had the classic hearing loss pattern of Meniere's disease. And I was like, that's why I can't hear my son. Because I can't hear his deep voice. He's like, "Whoa," you know. So yeah, so that kind of started the journey
So you were diagnosed pretty quickly then?
pretty quickly. We kind of bypassed all the testing, you know, all the dizzy things and the water and the head jerking and all that, because I checked all the boxes. So, you know, why, you know, my doctor and I were like, you know, why put me through that, spend all the money, spend all the
Right.
time, and get the answer we are fairly confident we're going to get anyway. And that
Did
would
you?
not be allergic to Bing cherries.
Right, that's a bonus.
I know. So I eat Bing cherries now again. So that's good.
Good. Did you stay off those for 14 years?
But yeah,
Wow, that's
so
crazy.
yeah, I didn't need them. No, no. Because I was like, that was terrible. If that's what I can bypass Bing cherries, if that's what's going to happen. Yeah. So that
Crazy.
would have been, that was the beginning of 2021. So yeah. So it's
Wow.
been 2 years. Yeah.
Did you do any vestibular rehab or anything?
I did. I did. I work with a gentleman named Andy here in town, and we did some things, the head turning and the pattern, um, standing on squishy surfaces and lots of walking.
Yeah.
And finally, he just said, you know, he said, you know, you run and you do yoga and you do all these things. And he said, I kind of don't know what else to do with you. So you've got your tools, you know,
Yeah.
and come back if, you know, you start having more problems. So he kind of kicked me out.
Were you having relief? I mean, were you experiencing relief?
Yes. And something that was interesting, and I had talked to other people just on the support groups
Yeah.
about how, you know, people were like, oh, I lay down when I have an attack. And I'm like, wow, I stand if I can. And look, I have a small bathroom window and I can look out and I can see this tree like across a couple of lawns and across the street. And I've always just stared at it and kind of swayed back and forth until, and hold on to the windowsill until I get, you know, you get to that point where you're so sleepy, you know,
Yeah.
you start getting, you know, that fatigue and you
Oh,
just start
yeah.
getting really sleepy.
Right.
Um, I stand as long as I can. And Andy was like, well, you're kind of doing some of these visual exercises already,
Right.
just instinctively. And I told other people, I stand. They're like, what? I think
That's the
Steve
first
was
time
one of
I've
the
heard
people
that.
that I think Steve was one of the people that went, what? You know? So,
Right.
but I don't always. I rarely lay all the way down. I don't think I ever do. I don't think I ever do. That's just bad for me, bad.
That's crazy. I was going through your blog and I love your blog. It's just beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I've kind of fallen off the wagon. I've kind
Oh,
of
have you?
um I know you and I talked about kind of taking a sabbatical, kind of walking away from
Yeah.
things, and I kind of did that and I really want to get back to it. I want to get back to it, but thank you for the
Yeah.
compliment. I appreciate
Do you
that.
find it's therapeutic to be writing like that?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And yeah, because I think when I was first diagnosed, this is kind of what motivated me to start the blog and so forth, is when I
Hmm.
was first diagnosed, um, I just probably had very much the same experience. You just kind of go, well, what does this mean? What's going to happen now? And I live by myself. So I was wondering, what's going to happen to my independence? Because I was reading all these absolutely horrifying things, and so I just had my really good cry, like wailing, carrying on, you know, and then went, okay, honestly, I'm no different than I was yesterday and the day before that, the day before that. I just have a name for it now.
Right.
So what can I do that will help people that are newly diagnosed not be completely horrified?
Yeah.
What is helpful? What is encouraging? You know, um, and at the time of my diagnosis, I was going through a lot of personal transitions anyway because of some other things that had happened in my life. And so here's one more thing. And it's like, yay. Um, but
I
but
can handle this.
but I found myself going, I'm a lot stronger than I thought I was a couple of years ago. And this is just one more thing. And I thought, okay, I'm going to take all this self-growth and positive energy that I've been focusing on other parts of my life, and I'm going to focus it on Meniere's monster too.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to start trying to figure out, how to live with this, because I didn't want to be one of those people that just, was gloom and doom and, having
So
pills
many people
thrown
get stuck.
and having pills thrown at me right and left, and have this pill is going to help this, but you're going to come back in 6 months and then we're going to tell you need another pill because of the side effects of this one. I didn't
Right.
want to get in that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And so I started just doing a lot of research and reading, and found a couple of books. I found one that was, it's terrible. I'm trying to think of the gentleman's name. It's called Overcoming Meniere's.
Oh,
He was not like, I want to say Mark Knopfler, but that's the guy from,
oh my gosh, I have that book. I cannot think of the name of the author either.
but he was a
I can.
PhD. Yeah, we'll
Mhm.
insert it later. He was a PhD and started having symptoms while he was working on his dissertation, was pretty much debilitated by it and just went all out on the salt thing.
Right.
And so I started trying that, and I thought, anything I can do, anything. And then the second book I found was Steve
Really?
Schler. And
Oh,
yeah, and that
talking
was,
about on the vertigo. Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah. And I just happened upon that. I saw him, he posted in a support group,
Mhm.
and he was talking about life rebalance, and I actually kind of misunderstood. I thought he was a filmmaker, and I was like, oh, that's so cool, da, 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 da. And then as I read more and researched him a little more, then I was like, oh my gosh, he wrote a book. I want to read this book. This is great. I've liked his posts, and so yeah, so I read his book, and that was really um inspiring and instrumental to kind of keep
Absolutely.
going. Highly recommend it to anybody that hasn't.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. I want to go back to where when you first were diagnosed, you're like, okay, now I know what to call it, but I was still dealing with the symptoms and learning how to live with it. I think people get so caught up on getting a name for what's going on that they forget to live, that they get so obsessed with it. Do you find that?
The groups, yes, yes. And I don't, and I'm sure that they're helpful for some people, and I don't want to, completely, I don't want to trash them,
Oh
but
no, no,
I have
there are good groups out there.
stepped back from the ones that I found initially. Um, and I'll share a little story too. One of the other reasons I thought, you know what, I'm going to figure out a way that I can be helpful and inspiring.
Right.
Um, because I was starting to experiment with food a lot and trying to eat better. And, we'd all been in COVID, so we were all becoming much better cooks.
Right.
and, and so, I started posting pictures of some things I was eating, and it was summertime, and I love making big salads and going to the farmer's market and finding all these great things. And I posted this salad just because it was pretty and colorful and everything. And somebody commented, "Can you send me the recipe?"
Mhm.
And I thought, it's a salad, you know, and and I don't mean that mean, but I
No, I
thought
know.
there are people that need tools and
Yeah.
encouragement and ideas. And so that's what got me to thinking to tell this person what I put in my salad. But that just kind of got me thinking a little bit more
Mhm.
about, like you said, some people just sit and go, okay, well, got this now.
Right.
Granted, there are people that, and it could be me in 3 months, 6 months, 6 years, that can't get out and do things and run. And I thank God every day that I can and that I can blow it off. um,
Right.
in the winter. I don't want to disparage the situations they're in by any means, but I do feel very strongly that if there's something I can do, patient heal thyself. If there's something I can do to help me have better quality of life, then I want to know about it and I want to try it. And if it
Right.
doesn't work, it doesn't work. But
Right. But you got to try.
Mhm.
What do you think was the pivotal moment for you, from your symptoms to your healing?
I think my pivotal moment to have me approach things the way I approach them
Mm.
um, was the two books that I found, the Overcoming Menieres and saying, okay, this guy did this with sodium. I'm going to try that. And then I think finding, and I don't even remember how I found them. I think it might have been through Steve's posts and Life Rebalance and so forth.
Right.
Um, discovering VeDA as a resource and the folks that were out there, definitely the Life Rebalanced series, and being able to relate to all those stories,
Yes.
um, regardless of the actual diagnosis, because there are people with different diagnoses in the series, but um, just going, okay, I kind of feel like that. I'm okay. Okay. I'm not the only one out there. I'm not in denial. I'm okay. I'm
Acceptance.
trying to, find my own way. Um, my, you mentioned symptoms diminishing. Um, y- I'm almost afraid to put this out in the universe. um,
Hit me with it.
last summer, last summer, I went months I had one vertigo attack in months. No,
That's
no weird dizzy, no, ear rings all the time. That's that's just gonna happen. But none of the other weird feelings,
yeah.
it's the and I started thinking, I started kind of having imposter syndrome. Like, do I really have Meniere's?
Right.
Do I really have this? Because it seems like other people have a lot more problems than I do. Well, enter October, November,
Oh
December.
no.
Yeah. Yeah. And where I live in Indiana, it's 33 one day, it's 63 the next day, it's 10 below, it's
Right.
45, and all the pressure changes. And I started thinking back and went back and looked at my journals, and I realized that November and December were hard months for me last year too.
Right.
So, I kind of got reminded that no, you don't have imposter syndrome, honey. You really do have this.
You're not alone with that, Lisa. When I started
Okay.
healing, no, no, no. When I started healing and I was feeling my best life, and I'm still popping on these groups that I'd been a part of since the beginning, I started feeling guilty for feeling better. So I pulled out a lot of those groups, and I will tell you, I wasn't posting anything, even though I should have been doing the opposite, encouraging, pouring into those groups and giving encouragement and inspiration. But I found myself pulling back and saying, who am I? Nobody's going to believe me. We're out sailing. Nobody's going to believe my symptoms. And it's heavy. It's really hard to pull back into that until you have those symptoms again. And then you're like, yep, I have it.
And in a
Yeah.
weird sort of way, you're like, okay, I'm still part of the club. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. Okay. You feel
Strange.
in a weird, twisted way validated.
I know it's awful, but it's so true because there are so many people that are I mean, I use the word stuck, but they just haven't found the tools, and you ha I think you have to go through the process, and then something just clicks one day. And because there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work to do to get where we are. And can you tell me some of the tools that you use? I know that you're a yogi, right?
I
Are
am,
you?
yes. Yeah. Well, I trained and when I was living in Austin and California, and over the years I was fortunate enough some really great teachers in California and out west where a lot of them are. And
Right.
but then and I taught a little and so forth. And of course, no symptoms and upside down, doing all the things. Um but I haven't taught for a long time, but
Yeah.
I do practice, on my own. I have a yoga room in my house and I do practice. I did have a little bit of an issue a couple weeks ago when I was practicing and haven't practiced since.
Oh,
I know. So I need to get back. I need to get back on it. So
yeah.
I do that. I have found, I joke with my friends that I exercise out of fear. I always, in the summer, much more active every summer. I'm like, I'm running, and run, walk, that kind of thing. But then I started noticing that my symptoms were less severe if I was running or walking. And some days when I feel a little wonky,
Hmm.
if I go for a walk, it will help. But you reach a certain, if you're if you're at DEF CON, 1 or
Yeah.
2, and okay, keep walking around, go for a walk, go, go, go. But if I'm at DEF CON 5,
Forget
you're
it.
coming out. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
I find that with anxiety too. If I'm getting irritated or anxious, if I'm able to get out and walk it off, it just kind of clears my head a bit.
yeah, I think my newest tool, oh, sorry, we overlapped a
Yeah.
little bit. Sorry, that delay. Um, the other tool that I have found recently, because of, the October, November, December thing, is, and I don't know how I stumbled on it, but WeatherX earplugs. And so I thought, well, what the heck, I'll try them,
And
and I think they kind of help. And they do say on them that they're for migraines, but it helps regulate pressure a little bit, I feel
okay.
like. I have found that if the pressure is increasing and I'm wearing them, it makes my ears hurt a little bit. And I feel more, that stuffing up feeling. But if pressure is decreasing and I put them in, I think it's helpful.
Interesting. That's
Yeah,
so
I think it's helpful.
my
So,
last guest, we spoke about that I actually had the WeatherX app on my phone for a while, but it wasn't really beneficial to me because I can feel when it's coming. You know what I mean? But I wanted to try the earplugs because I've heard wonderful things, but I haven't tried them yet. So that's so interesting. I'm gonna have to get a pair because the
yeah.
pressure is one of my biggest symptoms. It's one of my biggest triggers for sure.
And I was a little bit hesitant because I tried, it's the same company, I think, that does the airplanes. And I tried those the last time I flew to actually, and didn't like them at all. I was like, this is, oh, take these out. And I
Oh, really?
apologize to airplanes, but they were not right for me.
Right.
Funny enough, my ears feel the most normal when I'm on a plane. So, you know,
Interesting.
I should just become a flight attendant. Live on a plane. But so coming home from that trip, I didn't wear them
Mhm.
and felt a little bit better, but I still have a lot of trepidation about flying,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
fear of what if something goes sideways and I'm on a plane? Sounds
Yeah.
awful. So,
I know nowadays it's kind of hard. I've only been on a flight once since 2016, since my symptoms began, and it wasn't so bad. But yeah, I'd rather drive.
yeah. And see, that's where I probably have the most fear.
Really?
Where um, I was in a relationship for several years and he lived in Chicago and I drive to Chicago all the time. And I, I drive places and now I'm always like, okay, I'm gonna drive, but I hope I'll be okay. But I'm very, very nervous about driving much farther than 45 minutes to an hour. I'm really
Still
nervous.
to this day.
Because my sister lives about 7 hours away, and I used to drive to Iowa all the time. And I I have not since I was diagnosed. I'm afraid to. So
Yeah. Have you had
true
a bad ex
confession.
Have you had a bad experience on the road?
Um, I had I did have I would say on the scale to 1 to 10, probably about a 6. I was with a friend and we were going to a concert in Indianapolis, and for us, that's about a 2-hour drive. And I was driving and I'd been fine. I looked down at my console, looked back up, and was woo. And I went, oh no. Well, that's not actually what I said, and she immediately grabbed my steering wheel. And I'm like, no, okay, okay, okay. So we pulled off and we went to a rest stop, which is there's quite a large truck stop between here and Indianapolis. And that's where, and we sat outside in the parking lot for a couple hours.
Wow.
And, I just leaned, I walked a lot, lots of walking. And then I sat and I leaned against, because there's this huge sign that you can see from the highway. So I'm leaning against one of the big posts sitting in the gravel. We're like
Oh my gosh.
staring at a telephone pole way off in the distance, doing my vestibular therapy,
Wow.
And we eventually made it to the concert, and I
How,
was just
how
swaying.
did
And
you do in the concert?
well, I looked just like everybody else, but I was not under the influence of anything at that point. My whirling, twirling, and dizziness was all coming from inside my head.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
but we made it through. And then the next day drove back and I kept saying, I feel a little weird, but I'm okay. And I realized I only had in one contact. So
Oh my goodness, Lisa.
that might have been part of it too.
It might have been. Well, I wanted to mention, I know when I started,
Dad?
yeah, my father.
Was that your dad?
Yeah. Dad, you're not invisible. Oh, that's funny. Are you coming back by? Now he's invisible. When I went back to driving, when I went back to driving, well, I guess I should backtrack. I went into the driver's license to renew my license, and at a certain age, I'm over 50, you have to take the test all over again. And when I did that, they ask you questions like, do you have seizures? Have you been dizzy in the last 6 months? And I paused. I'm like, 6 months? Let's try 6 hours. So I contemplated over and over in my head, am I to be honest or am I to just push through? My job at the time involved driving to patients' homes. So I said, okay, I can't live with myself if something happened to me. So I'm going to be honest and see what happens. I was honest. They took my license from me that day. And actually, they suspended my license until it went in front of a medical review board. I had to call my parents to come get me from the driver's license bureau at I think I was 40, 49 years old or something. I love telling my son about that. But then after like 6 months and going back and forth, they reinstated it, but it was jumping through hoops. Such a pain.
Yeah. Wow.
I know.
I've never had to do that, and I'm older than that. And so, yeah, because my job involves driving too. I'm in sales. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of scary because it's that
a lot of
when
my
you do.
clients know.
Yeah. Yeah. You just drive differently? You drive differently. I know I drive to the right, so I have an easy escape off the shoulder if I have to.
I don't think about that actually.
Yeah.
The one thing I notice I do is if I feel like, again, this October, November, December thing, didn't do it in the summer, but I actually did drive to Central Illinois with my son and his girlfriend in the fall without incident. So,
Nice.
yeah, who knows? But that's the thing. It's the great mystery, isn't it? It's like,
It
oh,
is.
it was fine the last time.
Uh,
But what I've noticed is, and here in the winter, we used to call it playing summer in Iowa when we were teenagers, is I crack the windows and it helps that feeling of pressure and closed in that I feel in my car sometimes on days where I'm, feeling my head's feeling full. And,
right.
maybe it's psychological, but if it helps, it helps, right?
Yeah,
So,
right. That's
so
so
I'm sitting there
interesting.
with my gloves on and everything with
Right.
the windows cracked.
Yeah. When we do what we have to do.
Yeah, play summer.
Right. Hey, I noticed on your blog that you spoke of the jar of moments. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's really cool that you're interested in that. Um, a long time ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I read something online about starting a jar of moments, and every time, I mean, this will be one I write down. Just little piece of paper, just write down the date and something just cool or memorable or special or something that made you laugh or whatever that happened that day, put in the jar. And then on New Year's Day, I dump them all out and read them. And it's kind of cool. It is just,
It's really
and
cool.
there'll be little things like, had dinner with Heather. It was fun.
Yeah,
Or, you know, or it could be, went to Michelle's surprise birthday party. Big
right.
things, little
Those
things.
things. It's so cool.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like a year in review kind of thing. And I like on New Year's Day, I like to kind of review the year and kind of set an intention for the year ahead. And it fits nicely into that.
Yeah, that's really nice because we do forget a lot of those moments, those great moments that happen throughout the year. I was thinking also that if you're having a bad day, that's something you could also go to, remind you of
Yeah.
moments.
Well, case in point, last June, I had an attack, the only one I had all summer, knock on wood. And it was in the middle of a client meeting.
Oh no.
And I did post on Instagram about it. And I got people were so great. They were so supportive. But and this particular client did not know about my Meniere's disease. And typically I'm there by myself. But I happened to be with another coworker of mine because we were working on something together. And I just got up and walked out. And he he was like, he said later, he said, "Oh, I thought you were just getting up and going to the bathroom. And then I realized your file was like dumped out on the floor." And he
Oh
said,
no.
"Something's wrong." But and I'll backtrack a little. One of the attacks that I had in 2019, when they started happening more often, this was probably a pivotal moment. I had one at work, and they eventually, after several hours, put me in an ambulance and sent me to the hospital
Oh, wow.
because they were afraid I was having a stroke
Yeah.
because of the nystagmus and, all that. And it was, that was kind of a big deal, kind of a
That's
big deal,
scary.
kind of an expensive deal. But so I walked back into the office where this client was sitting and my coworker was sitting, and I said, "Hey," I said, "remember that time when that thing worked?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "It's happening right now."
Oh, no.
And that's all I said. And I just went back to the bathroom. Now, where I happened to be was Ronald McDonald House in Northeast Indiana. And so it was getting towards the end of the day, and families were starting to come in. Kids were getting out of school, and they were joining their mom and dad and that sort of thing. Families that were staying there and using their services. So, they were coming and knocking on the door, and they're like, "Should we get a wheelchair movie?" I said, "No, wheelchair sounds like an incredibly bad idea."
Right.
So they said, "Well," I said, "I know you need me to get out of this bathroom. I'm sitting on the floor. You know how it is. Meniere's
Yes, I do.
how it is." And so finally I got up and I walked in. I had my shoes in my hand. And I said, "You guys, if we're going to move me, we got to go right now." so,
Oh, gosh.
so they shout out to Ronald McDonald House of Northeast Indiana and those people. They took me to one of their rooms
Oh,
way in the back, and they said, "You can stay and there as long as you need to and
that's
rest."
wonderful.
And so I was there for I was there for a couple more hours, and then drove home like
Wow.
25 minutes. Yeah. So kind of embarrassing, kind of, it was kind of weird, but I just every day I'm like, thank goodness I wasn't like at an auto repair place or
I
somewhere
know.
like that.
The floors aren't so clean. I mean, not that hospitals are,
Yeah,
but it's a lot
yeah,
better.
yeah. And I was somewhere with a really nice soft bed, and because they basically put me in what really was like a little hotel room. And
That was
so,
kind of them.
yeah.
Was that
So,
your last episode of Vertigo?
no, I had one a little before Christmas. Not a super duper bad one, but bad enough. I was at a restaurant with a friend. I said, "We got to go." I said, "And I need you to follow me home."
Have you been able to find out what your triggers are, Lisa?
Mm.
I mean, something that would bring that on while you're out at a restaurant?
Sometimes I honestly wonder if it's anxiety of worrying that it's going to happen. Um, there are different places, and tell me if you experience this. Different places where you can go, even places where you used to go that didn't bother you now. There are certain restaurants that bother me more. Certain rooms in those restaurants. I have a networking group that I'm in, and this one room where we meet, it just always feels like, you know, um, I, I think it really, for me, a ton of it has to do with barometric pressure.
Yeah.
It really does. It really does. And lack of exercise. If I go several days,
Yeah.
it's a
I
big
It's so
part of
funny
it.
you mentioned the rooms because the rooms was a huge thing for me. The first time I ever experienced noise induced vertigo was when I thought I was getting better, and my mother took me out to lunch, and there was no one else in this restaurant, but the ceilings were high, and a school bus of fifth graders walked in, and their little voices hitting that roof. My my mom's a cardiac nurse, and she immediately looked at me, grabbed my arm, looped it in her arm, and took me outside because the nystagmus started, and I just was not there anymore. It was one of the worst feelings. But just the noise sensitivity and the surroundings, if it's a more intimate place, I can handle it. But if there's a lot of clanking and a lot of noises and the voices, it's too much. Even today, even today. So I have to be very particular about where I sit and have an escape route and all that good stuff.
Yeah. And sometimes I think, and I'll be sitting there and I'll be kind of thinking, hey, I'm doing pretty good. And then Sometimes I wonder if I trigger myself.
Yeah.
I honestly, now I will say a new experience. I had not gone to a movie since COVID, and prior to COVID, movies were not an issue. I went to a movie with a friend it was the night we talked on the phone.
Oh,
We talked on the
oh,
phone and I
yes.
told you it was snowing
Yeah.
and that I was meeting a friend and then we were going to go to a movie.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Well, we're halfway through that movie and all of a sudden my nystagmus just hit and I reached over and grabbed her arm and I probably about drew blood. I mean,
Oh, man.
I was holding and I just sat there. I looked away from the screen and just did deep breathing. The nystagmus stopped. I felt funky, but not particularly dizzy, just off.
Right.
And so I stayed for the rest of the movie and just didn't look at the screen. There was a couple times I
Terrible.
looked up and went, "Oh no,
Oh, yeah.
nope, can't do that."
Yeah. Yeah. I'm the
So
same way. We just went to Avatar, 3-hour movie, went to Avatar, and I always have a problem when I first walk in the theater because it's so dark. I have to grab onto my daughter or my husband or wall surf still to this day. Then once I get to my seats, I'm fine. But when the movie first starts, I cannot watch it. It's just so, I don't know what it is about the beginning of the movie. It's just so overly stimulating. But once they get into slowing down things, then I'm able to watch it as long as there's not a lot of commotion. And I watch the most of the movie with my eyes closed. And I'm just like, okay, bye.
Avatar with your eyes closed? Oh,
Yeah, not the whole thing, but when I started to feel symptomatic, yeah. But I made it through it.
and I love movies.
I do
I
too.
love movies.
Right.
And yeah, and I don't know if it was just because of the time of year again
Hmm.
or not, but boy, there was a period, I mean, November, December was rough. I mean, every single day I
Oh,
felt funky, one degree or another. Um, I was standing, I was sitting for work, standing, sitting, increasing the size of the font on my computer, and then some of the programs I use wouldn't work, so I'd have to decrease it again and then increase it, turn the light way down, on the computer. I was wearing sunglasses while I was working. Um, just trying everything. And the nystagmus really kicked up a notch, really
terrible.
kicked up a notch.
Hmm.
And it's changed. It's changed from side to side to swirling.
Hmm.
Why? Who knows? Who knows? Only the Meniere's gods know that.
You know what? I think they would be able to tell you if you did that vestibular testing.
I know I've thought about it.
Ah.
I've thought about it. And I've often wondered if they're going to give me another diagnosis, and say, well, you got this too.
Yeah, you got me.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. That's
so
all right. You would still do things the same way.
I probably would. I probably would. Might change the diet again. Might have to have a couple of little talks with the Dizzy cook and, dig into her recipe books a little bit more. But who knows? Who knows? But, I was all ready to go get my glasses checked again. I'm like, I think maybe my bifocal line's in the wrong place, just trying to think about all the different things that might be
Now, that's interesting to
pertaining.
me. You can wear bifocals?
Mhm.
Oh, wow. I've tried them and man, they instantly make me dizzy. There's no way. So, yeah.
Well, and I've had them for a long time. And the last time I went to have my prescription updated, that's when we really kind of had the Meniere's conversation.
Mm.
And you know, whenever we have our glasses changed, it's always kind of
Right.
um it's like a relief, but then it's not,
For sure.
but I was carrying contacts in my purse for a while because there was one instance I was actually at my office and
Mm-mm.
again, kind of a new symptom. This was probably in November. Nystagmus hit me so hard and so sudden that I did this, and you know, um, I work at a radio station, so people can we kind of say whatever we want to say. And the sales room is, and so I was like, oh, you know, and
Right.
one of my other coworkers is like, you okay? And I'm like, nope. And he's like, okay, need us to do anything? Nope. And I just took my glasses off and got my contacts out of my purse and threw those in my eyes. And I'm like, okay, just did the deep breathing, deep breathing, deep breathing. I'm like, okay, started to move, hit me again, deep breathing, deep breathing, deep breathing.
Goodness.
And then just kind of felt funky for a couple hours, but never went into full vertigo.
Wow.
So I don't know what's going on with the nystagmus. It's just weird. And it has definitely changed.
Wow.
Definitely changed. It's
Well, I
squirrel.
mean, as long as you can adjust to it, um, why poke the
Woo!
bear?
I
You
know,
know?
right? I
Wow.
know. Deep breathing has been a big thing for me. You were asking going way back and
Yeah.
um news you can use, tools. Deep breathing is a big thing. And I know they talk about box breathing
Yeah.
on a lot of the socials. And I'm not totally, I don't know that I totally know what that is. Is that just like inhale, exhale, in?
Yes, I believe it is inhale first, like 5 seconds, hold it for 5 seconds, exhale, hold it, the whole thing.
Okay. Yeah. And I definitely, just kind of go into that. I sit and kind of feet on the ground, hands on something, close
Grounding.
my eyes. Yeah. Close my eyes and breathe. And I just keep saying, you are okay. You are not moving. You are not moving. You are not moving. And it helps, there's those times with the vertigo that it does.
Right. Yeah.
I would say 9 times out of 10.
I'm the
It
same.
helps. I
Mhm.
think it's calming. You just calm yourself down. I think that's a big part of it, what you're telling your nervous system.
Absolutely. What would you say that living with these vestibular disorders, well, with Meniere's has taught you?
Oh, compassion for other people's stuff. You know, um, I think I'm a lot more observant and empathetic to other people that have stuff.
Yeah,
You know, I don't have to understand it. I don't have to get it. Um, but yeah, a lot more
absolutely.
empathetic and compassionate. And I think also, I mean, gosh, aren't you just so thankful when you're symptom free
Oh,
and
yes.
you have a great day?
Yes. And you forget that you have it.
And how we used to take that for granted. And now, yeah, and now you notice it.
Yeah.
I was reading a book that I'm reading right now and talking about health and gratitude towards health. And I'm like, oh yeah. And you know, vestibular disorders are pretty humbling, pretty because we can't control it. We don't know when it's going to happen. And so when you are feeling good, you're so thankful. And when you're able to go and do that activity that you've been so looking forward and everything goes off without a hitch and you have a
Right.
great time and you don't have to leave early and you have a great time, you're even more thankful
I
for
know.
that great time, you
Awesome.
know? Yeah. It just,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Get
how
it.
things and really truly understanding and respecting the fact that things could change at any minute and to be thankful for where you are and what you are blessed with.
So true.
'Cause it could change in a flash.
Just like that. Get it back.
Absolutely. Oh, and this is exciting. I'm going to be on one of the patient panels for the Life Rebalance Live conference coming up.
How exciting.
So
When is that?
yeah, I was really, really honored to be asked to do that. So
That's
that's
fantastic.
exciting. Yeah. Yeah. And when it first came up was when, I was having imposter syndrome. So I'm like, well, okay. Now that I've had the last couple months that I've had my, these woo-woo weeks that I've had, then maybe, I feel a little more qualified, I guess. But
That's so cool.
to support me, well, I need to get back into, doing my blog again. I kind of have taken a little break from it, and I need to get back into that. And so going to that, reading that, commenting on that, I think it would be great if people, if I could get more input from folks to share with me what, they're kind of interested in, and, what they would like to see in a blog. It might be beyond my scope. It might not be,
Right. That's cool. Definitely
I'm
put
certainly
something out
not
on
a
Instagram.
yeah, I'm not a medical professional. So, but, just to talk about it, what would be helpful? What have you, just seeing what people are interested in. Um,
I will tell you at the end of this, I can put a question and I will place that question at the end of the podcast and see if I get any feedback and I'll shoot it to you. So if anybody has any ideas of what Lisa can write
oh,
about,
that'd be great. Thank
yeah,
you. I'd
no,
love
no
that.
problem. Yeah, it's
I
so
love that.
I get a lot of feedback that
Yeah,
way. So
yeah.
I love
And if, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. And if I don't, and I say that, I think on my website, I'm like, let me know if you've got any ideas or, but I haven't had any takers.
I
So,
think that people feel that they're bothering us. I've recently had a couple of people reach out to me. Um, I should say some vestibular warriors have reached out to me saying so and so wanted to reach out to you, but they didn't want to bother you. I'm like, that's what I'm doing. Reach out to me. I don't mind it off. I can talk. I will. If I can't, I think
yeah,
they don't want to bother us because they think we're so busy, but we make time. That's what it's all about. So,
yeah,
um,
exactly.
yeah, for sure. Well, before we go, I wanted to end with something a little fun. I do it at the end of every interview. It's called Whirlwind Questions. Are you ready? Or
Um,
actually, did you want to share anything before we go?
well, I shared the information about Life Rebalanced live, and I would really encourage any one that's watching or listening to the podcast to, definitely check out the VeDA site and also look up the Life Rebalanced live
Yes.
conference. Going to be in
I'm
March.
interested in that. I will be posting that. I didn't even realize they were doing that. And I'm a cast member of season 2. I don't know if you knew
You
that.
are?
I
Oh,
am. I was
bravo.
so
That's
excited to be asked. I just did my first interview last week.
great. That is super exciting.
Yeah, so cool. So many amazing people on this.
That is, yes. And that's the thing too. I mean, Heather, honestly, haven't we met some really great people?
Oh my gosh, some amazing humans. And you know what? I don't know of any other community out there that is like this. It is just crazy. Even I mean, just the way that we lift each other up and lean on each other and we can reach out to anybody at any time. It's a family and I love it. I love all my vestibular sisters and brothers.
And it's so great to find people, and if anybody's listening to this that feels really alone, you're not.
No.
We're out there spinning too. And and it is so great to connect with people because the people that are in our lives and love us and care about us, they, hang in there with us and they ride the wave with us, but they don't totally get it. And to have that conversation or meet somebody in person for the very first time that gets it,
Yeah.
it's just so freeing.
It
And
is.
you can sit there, when your ear's doing this and you're and they're like, yes, I totally get that. And everybody else around is going, what? And it's wonderful. I
It
know.
is.
And it's so validating. And and even though you're talking about some really, crappy stuff that happens to us,
Right.
it's it somehow makes it okay when you find somebody that it's like, oh yeah, that happens to me too.
That
You
you're not
know,
alone, that you're not experiencing
it's
it
so
all by
great.
yourself. Yeah.
It's
And
so great.
it's so hard to explain, but yeah, it is. It's just, but it's nice to know
But
you're not alone.
and that's why too, I have really been one of the things that I do want to do here in my community, because it doesn't exist, is some kind of a support group here in my community.
Oh, like live?
Yes, I know there's some great online ones, but
Hmm.
to do something here and get with like my best therapist and start to kind of, and I was hoping to do that last year and it just kind of, you know, backburnered it,
Do
but
it,
that's
do it,
something I would like
do
to
it.
do. I know, because I've met a couple of people, a guy that used to do my hair. All of a sudden, I was talking to him one day. And then I said, yeah, I've been kind of dizzy and da la la. And he says, do you have Meniere's disease? I have Meniere's disease. I said, I do too, you know, and I've known him for like 14 years.
Oh my goodness.
And, and then a physician's assistant at my dermatologist's office. She's looking at my record. She's like, oh yeah, I have Meniere's disease. What? You do? And so they're there, they're
Yeah,
out there.
they
And so
are.
to a group that's positive and encouraging and sharing ideas, I really would like to get that going
Awesome.
here this year. So if you live in Fort Wayne, Indiana, look me up on the gram.
Awesome. Well, as soon as you get that going, I'm gonna
Yeah.
let me know
And then we
and
can
I will spread the word
connect.
too. It's exciting.
Yeah. Sounds great. Yeah.
Awesome. So are you ready for whirlwind questions?
I guess so. I'm a little
Okay, and
scared,
there's no
but
wrong
okay.
answer. Don't be scared. Fill in the blank. Vestibular disorders are.
Interesting.
Mm.
That's the first thing that comes to my head.
That's to say the
Interesting and
least.
surprising.
You feel your symptoms coming on and you're trying to be brave, Lisa. What's the first thing you do?
I deep breathe and try to see where it's going to go. And if I'm with people that know me, I'll just say, I may need to leave. I'm just honest. But yeah, I try not to make a big scene. I
Yeah.
try to be quiet about it.
Yeah, my husband usually knows. It's usually in my eyes, and I just kind of grip him. I'm like, okay.
The friend I was having dinner with a couple weeks ago, I just looked at him. I said, look at my eyes right now. And he's like, whoa. Yeah, I can see that. So
It's good to have people out there that know what's going on, though, especially when you're out with them.
yeah. And they're not freaking out.
Right.
They're not freaking out.
Oh, 'cause that just adds to it. What's one thing people usually get wrong about you?
Hmm. Uh, that I am standoffish and conservative.
Interesting.
I don't hear that quite as much as I used to, but I used to hear it quite a bit. It's like, oh, you're a lot different than I thought.
With people.
Yes. And I did have somebody, I would say within the last, well, I saw her this weekend and we were talking about it. I said, that meant so much to me. She said to me one time this summer, she looked at me, she goes, you're not the Karen I thought you were.
Oh my
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
God. Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Lisa, what's your favorite meal?
Oh, pasta or salmon. I love salmon. I love salmon.
Nice, nice. What's the last show you binged and loved?
Oh, I am watching New Girl again for the second time, going
That's
through the
so
modes.
cute.
I love it. I laugh out loud.
Yes.
That, and I would say The Crown.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. And
Good.
Yellowstone.
I haven't gotten into that one yet. I'm trying to. That'll be my next one.
Yellowstone.
Yeah. What is on your nightstand?
Oh, I was wondering if you're going to ask me this one. I have a clock. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books, 2 of which I'm reading.
What are they?
Oh, okay. One is Becoming by Michelle Obama. I've read like half of it and it's kind of sitting there.
Yeah.
One is called Breathe Lessons by Ann Tyler, which is an older book. One is called Imagine This, that was written by John Lennon's sister, Julia. I met her several years ago and I have a copy of that. Collection of her books all in one.
Oh my
Books and
goodness.
essays all in one. That one you kind of come and you go and you read a little bit, come back to it.
Right.
One I have not started yet. It's essays by, and I've had it for a while and I haven't read it yet. Essays by a bunch of female authors called Bitch in the House.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, and they're just kind of talking about all the things: marriage, sex, kids, money, jobs, just the things. What's the other one? Just Kids. It's a book by Patti Smith about her time with Robert Mapplethorpe. So yeah, a wide variety.
I'm like that too. I usually have 2 or 3 going at once. It just depends on my mood and not including my audiobooks.
One, The Magic by Rhonda Byrne.
Oh, read that one either.
And I just finished Soundtracks by John Acuff. So that was a fun read. That was more like a business oriented, but very good.
Cool. Awesome. Awesome. I'm going to pull a couple of those out of there.
Well, there's more on my nightstand. There's more. There's 5 or 6 bottles of fingernail polish for those last minute touch-ups before you go to bed. And a candle. This is hopeful. And a coaster for my water bottle. Okay.
What's an activity that completely relaxes you?
Probably one of my very favorite things is just kind of getting together with friends for dinner, wine, and just talking, real talking, not superficial talking, but real talking.
I don't have the energy for small talk anymore.
I don't either.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? What movie could you watch over and over and never tire of?
The first Ghostbusters movie.
Oh my God.
I love it. What did you do, Ray? No, I love that movie. And every year I watch, ever since I can remember, I have watched A Christmas Carol, the black and white version with Alistair Sim.
Oh,
Love that movie.
yeah.
I love that movie. And yeah, so I watch that every year.
Nice.
Yeah. There's a lot of movies I love, but Ghostbusters always just comes right to mind.
Have you ever seen The Family Stone?
Oh, yes. I love it. I love it. Yeah,
I
that's
love
a good
that
one.
movie. You go through every emotion in that movie. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very sweet. It's very tender. And I think it's very, it's a good portrayal of a family that, they all just love each other so fiercely, but yet they still fight,
Right.
and
It's just real.
Yeah, it's very real. That's very real. I love Diane Keaton too. So
I do too.
and the breakfast casserole scene.
The best.
So
yeah.
It's a good movie.
Yes, it is. What's your most used tool in your vestibular toolbox?
Oh, you're gonna make me pick one. I would say there's a lot of deep breathing, no matter if it's just something might be starting or if I'm in the middle of the storm, there is always deep breathing.
Yeah, that's an important one because you take it with you everywhere. It's easy to use.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then the latest thing would be the WeatherX earplugs. Experimenting
I've
with
got to
that.
give those a try. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for doing that, because that's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah, and everybody's different, and it says it right on the box, experiment. And I'm starting to see that for me, it's not the increasing, it's the decreasing.
The last question is, what are you extremely grateful for today?
What am I extremely grateful for today? Well, this face-to-face thing, this has been awesome. We've talked on the phone, like,
Yeah, a few times.
texted back and forth and everything. So this is going to get a little piece of paper in the moments jar. Doing this is great. So,
well, Lisa, it's been so fun.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation. Really have been looking forward to it, and it's been a lot of fun. So I love what you're doing, and I enjoy your podcasts. And
thank you, Lisa. I'm so happy we finally connected. It was great hearing your stories, and I relate so much to so many of them. If you had a takeaway or something that really resonated with you with this conversation, please reach out to us on social media and tag us. If you haven't left a review yet, please do so. Lisa also asked, what would you be interested in hearing more about on her blog? Please feel free to leave the information here or reach out to one of us and let us know. We absolutely love hearing from you. Thank you so much for listening. If you would like to reach out to myself or Lisa, please see the show notes for details. If you would like more information on vestibular disorders, please go to the Vestibular Disorders Association website at www.vestibular.org. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Meniere's Muse for updates. Thank you again for being here, and we'll see you next week, Warriors.